till 7 p.m. this Wednesday, 29th of April, 2026. And as always, the countdown is on, like it always is really in life. You're always counting down to something, or counting down out of something. Either ways, it's good to have you here. It is the midweek special. 3:11 p.m. is the time, and we're getting straight into our midweek special conversations with our guest, Dr. Majeed Dahiru, who is here in the studio, sat live, not virtually today. It's good to have you back with us, sir.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
I was not here last week at all, but
no, you were not.
Physically.
Yes, that's true. That's true. So you will pay fine, sir.
No, I need to apologize to my audience too.
Then send prayers to our emails.
Oh, okay. In Jesus' name.
I mean, we'll take that. We'll take that. That's the prayer that we're used to. But it's good to have you here, sir. And we're just going to get straight into the conversations, making the headlines. I don't know. Perhaps maybe we should just touch very briefly before we move on to the other stories. I wanted us to start outside of Nigeria. But quick words very quickly on this headline about court restraining INEC from recognizing ADC congresses. I believe you've seen that. A federal high court in Abuja today restrained INEC from recognizing or participating in any congress organized by disputed caretaker leadership of the ADC. The court, in a judgment delivered by Justice Joyce Abdul Malik, also barred former Senate President David Mark and other prominent figures in the party from interfering with the functions and tenure of elected state executives. This ruling is the latest development in the festering leadership dispute within the ADC, with clear implications for the control of party structures ahead of future political activities. Norman Obinna is the one who filed this, him and 6 others on behalf of state chairpersons and executive committees of the party. This is the first time we're seeing this arm of the ADC going legal. Your quick thoughts on it, sir. The implications of this. First of all, this is separate from the Supreme Court judgment that is being waited on by the David Mark faction. But do you think this is going to put any spanner in the wheels of things happening ahead of that court judgment coming out?
I think it will depend on the Supreme Court ruling. But this is a separate case. It's also very fundamental to the David Mark structure of leadership of the APC.
Fundamental in what way?
Okay, because this challenges that convention that was held recently and the congresses across the states. This fundamentally challenges it and says, look, it's all null and void, and that David Mark and his other people should stop putting themselves as the legitimate leaders of the party, that the current tenure of both the state and the National Executive Committee is there to lapse. So that when their tenure ends,
right, they
will now do a proper convention in line with their own constitution. Well, for me, what this might result into is a lot of two things. I'm sure they will appeal. Of course, they will appeal. But since this is the case, it effectively means that Rafumosu remains the national chairman of the ADC. So maybe they can leverage on that. This is the chairman of the ADC. Because
I'm sorry. Ralph Nwosu as chairman.
If you return anything that go back to status quo before this whole crisis.
But even his chairmanship at the time was being disputed.
And that's another separate entity, and that's a separate case entirely. But for the purpose of this judgment, it does not vitiate his chairmanship or not. It actually affirms him as, from you, anything that affirms another executive in that old ADC means Nwosu is affirmed too as the chairman. So I think the coalition is still lucky to have Nwosu, who was chairman then. He can now claim his rightful position as chairman.
Right.
And then of two things can happen. So the rest people can become ordinary members. The Mark and Co can become members of the ADC. I mean, and Nwosu can now carefully guide a convention in line with this judgment and now bring in these people formally as executive members. I mean, I don't know. That's, to me, one of the best things that can put to them because of time. By the time you appeal this judgment, I don't think, by the time they finish their legal tussle, I doubt if they will have enough time to part of the electoral process in 2027. For me, since this judgment can be interpreted as though Nwosu is still the chairman, if that be the case, and he can actually decide to assume that role again, he cannot probably do a better job at midwifing that transition from maybe a fringe party to that mega party that they had always wanted to be. I think the board, they can just sit down and think about it. Otherwise, the only option to them is to appeal this judgment. If they want to forge ahead into what they have now, they have to appeal this judgment. And I don't know when this appeal will be heard, when they would give their own ruling, and until they get to the Supreme Court, I don't know when all of this will end.
Well, speaking of appeals, I believe word got out about some group that would now have to write. I can't remember if it was the Supreme Court that they were writing to ask them to accelerate. Yes, so they had talked about accelerated hearing.
Down.
Yes,
I mean, the Supreme Court should accelerate that hearing too and give judgment so that let all parties know where they stand in this electoral cycle. It's important.
Today is exactly 1 week since they made that decision
so for me, anytime within the week, they should make a pronouncement. It's not such a difficult thing.
Okay, let's see how that goes. But as of this particular ruling now, it's just subject to appeal. It doesn't really have any immediate impact.
It does.
Oh.
It nullifies the Congresses. What the other guy was alleging was with max leadership.
That's Nafiu Bala. Okay.
This one is alleging the entire structure that has been brought on board by the convention and Congress held by the Martin-led executive.
Okay, we'll be following very closely.
But the good thing for the ADC is that it does not nullify the structures entirely and left a vacuum. It says the former party chairman, those that were there before the guys took over, are the authentic executives. So, and most was one of them. So you can simply go back and engage. If there are lapses in the initial negotiation that didn't carry along some of these guys that are not protesting, just try and see how much of the situation can salvage. If they still want to use ADC as that social purpose vehicle as a coalition. Otherwise, I understand that Siraki Dixon has already given the green light to say, if ADC is going to be too complex for you guys,
come this way
to the NDC. So
interesting. And there won't be any issues there because it was Bolaji Abdullahi that also came out to say that once there was a mention of a PRP as having aligned or wanting to align with this coalition, all of a sudden there was talks about a faction in PRP breaking up.
A lingering crisis. But the NDC does not have. The only crisis they will have now is if you go there and want to now take over the structure as well. And we've talked about this issue several times. You don't need to take over any structure. Simply go in. If they are those that own the structure, believe in you enough, believe in what you stand for, to give you their platform, as we saw with Labour Party and Obi in 2023. Obi didn't take over the chairmanship of the party, didn't take over anything. They simply believed in him, they gave him the platform, and he ran a successful race. So if the NDC believes so much in the coalition and maybe some of the prospective candidates there, I decided to give them their platform. Don't go try to remove somebody before violating the constitution in the process or not necessarily settling anybody properly, because you guys know how you do it in the political field now.
You guys?
I mean, I'm talking about those that are in the field. They know how they do it. I mean, they know how they do this thing. So do it well, sir. If you must do very well, so that you don't have this crisis. But otherwise, they have to appeal this judgment. And I don't know when the appeal will be exhausted.
Okay. Like I said, we're going to be following very closely. And speaking of following, you can join in on the conversation on our Facebook and YouTube channels. Go to Nigeria Info Abuja, and I'll be sure to take your comments there as well. Now, let's get into the conversation proper, if you will. Yesterday, news broke that the UAE has exited OPEC and OPEC Plus, or rather, plans are that they will exit come 1st of May. And they've given their reasons. They said it is as a result of changing global oil demand. This announcement was disclosed in a statement by the country's energy ministry on Tuesday and reported by a number of news outlets. The ministry said the UAE's exit will enable it to better align with evolving market conditions, noting that the country intends to gradually ramp up its oil production capacity to meet shifting demand patterns. This move is coming amid long-standing tensions with OPEC, particularly between the UAE and Saudi Arabia, as Abu Dhabi has pushed to expand its production capacity, a position that has repeatedly put it at odds with the cartel's output restrictions. This dynamic appears to have been further shaped by the ongoing conflict in the Middle East, which has altered regional priorities and alliances. The U.S. exit is set to represent a significant blow to OPEC and OPEC Plus, potentially weakening the cohesion of the Saudi Arabia-led alliance at a time when unity is critical to managing global oil disruptions. For the United States, this development is said could prove advantageous, as the U.S. President Donald Trump has repeatedly criticized OPEC for driving up oil prices and has linked American military support for Gulf nations to fairer pricing. But fragmented OPEC may also lead to increased oil supply and potentially lower global prices, aligning with the U.S.'s interests. We see indeed what this move would do for OPEC as a bloc. We see what it would do for countries like the U.S. But the question is, what does that mean for us here in Nigeria, especially given our increased, how would I put it now, poor oil output? As a member of the OPEC, how does this affect us? What does this mean in terms of our security within the OPEC, and even, as they're leaving, what does that mean for us generally?
It means nothing for you.
Absolutely nothing.
Okay, the highest that can happen is the worst case scenario. If OPEC is unable to control large scale, or should I say large swathes of oil production. That is, you have too many countries outside of the OPEC that are actually oil producing, Russia, the UK. So a lot of countries that are actually oil producing that are not in the OPEC cartel. If you have so many of such countries, it might take the pricing mechanism, the ability to control low prices might be taken away from that cartel that tries to control production vis-a-vis pricing. So if you observe, OPEC plans oil production globally among its members. When the price of crude is dropping significantly, OPEC will cut back production. They will restrict quota among members so that when there's a bit of a scarcity, the price will rebound. And sometimes, too, when it's getting too high, they will increase production just to bring it back to some safe level, because high oil prices really does not augur for any country, including oil-producing countries. Because even when you make so much money from high oil prices, you have to spend more to subsidize at home. So fair pricing is best for all parties, really. Now, you have to go back to the history of OPEC. OPEC was simply an economic bloc of countries, oil-producing countries, that seeks to push a collective bargain on pricing of crude oil in the international market. Something that actually benefited other countries at the beginning and helped developing oil-producing economies to earn premium amounts of money from crude oil production. Before OPEC, before the era of OPEC, crude oil was not measured in barrels. That's why, for instance, in Nigeria, if you look at the First Republic, between 1958 or 57, when oil production started in Nigeria commercially, and say 1971, 72, 73, during the OPEC era, you discover that crude oil was more about royalties, taxes to the federal government and the regional government. You didn't hear anything about barrels or production levels in that era because, well, most of us that own oil, didn't really know the extent of the profitability of this commodity until the Arabs, of course, they gained the initial foresight to say, look, we cannot just have something, you come and just pay royalty and you just evacuate. No. For every barrel you take, you have to pay for a barrel. That was how the per barrel pricing template actually started gradually, which now gave oil-producing countries some premium, some comfortability. In fact, I can say without OPEC, the price of crude oil would have been so undervalued that it would not have created the kind of wealth it created for most of the countries you see having oil today. So OPEC was useful to that extent. But like the UAE observed, changing global dynamics actually, increased demand and energy ambitions of individual countries have now made some countries to opt out of OPEC so they can pursue the individual market. They can sell at their own prices. They can produce as much as they can independently without restrictions. So for a country like UAE, simple. What the UAE is trying to tell you is simple. We have more production capacity than OPEC allows us to put out. So we want to opt out of the market. I'm sure they've done their assessment. They have done all of the analysis they need to do as a country, and they have decided that it is best for their national economic interest to pursue a solo agenda as an independent oil-producing country away from the cartel.
Okay, let's come back to this conversation in just a few seconds. We'll be right back.
Abuja, are you listening? While some schools are still explaining results, Stella Maris schools
the impact of the UAE's exit from OPEC and OPEC Plus, and Dr. Majeed was giving us a bit of a history.
Yes. So what the UAE is simply trying to communicate to the world that we have come of age, and we can now independently guide our energy international relations in line with our national interest. Simple. And OPEC is a voluntary organization, so there's nothing binding anybody there permanently. So many countries have entered and put that before. So now, how does this benefit you? Because the report this report just read, crafted it as though it is to the interest of the U.S. Now, it's as if U.S. put a gun on the head of U.S. They live there and supply us oil. No. You see, the U.S. is the world's largest consumer of energy, fossil fuel energy. Next, I think followed by China. So for instance, the U.S. produces, U.S. is the world's largest producer of oil, as a matter of fact. People may not know this. The U.S. is a major oil producer itself. So the U.S. produces between 10 and 20 million barrels of crude oil per day. Sometimes, and something in between, but it has the capacity to produce up to 20. It does between 10, 12, or 13, just like the Saudis are doing. But U.S. also imports as much as it produces domestically. So U.S., for instance, consumes approximately, by some estimates, nearly 2 trillion liters of PMS per day. PMS. We are talking about 45 million liters here.
Just to be clear, the refined product.
Refined product now. To run their vehicles around their... You know how big the US is? You show those trucks that the US people are using to ferry... That's to tell you the economic activities going on in the US anyway. So China, for example, is between 800 and 1 billion liters per day. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So the US will be most concerned about energy prices staying low. So because US does not necessarily profit from export of oil, necessarily, unlike us, unlike the Saudis, the Emiratis, and other oil producing countries, the US needs oil prices to be low as low as possible at all times. That doesn't hurt its economy. So if you remember, like the UAE pulled out of OPEC, it indeed weakens OPEC. So it reduces OPEC's capabilities or powers to be able to influence international oil pricing.
Mm-hmm.
So the more you have such non-collective bargaining by oil-producing countries, which means you can sell at your price, which means now we can negotiate individual prices with countries. For example, Iran sells crude at a lower rate than OPEC rates to some of its allies, like China and some other countries. So it depends on what you really want to do. So the more you have countries outside of the OPEC, it is likely the price of crude might come down because there's no arrangement to have a collective bargaining for the price of our commodity. It's like trying to break unions, because without unions, workers can't come together and demand for a slight, like the other size of the bread and the wider spread of the butter. But if you have unions, there's a tendency that they always come together and demand for more. But when we're able to break unions and bring them to bits and pieces, they become weakened and unable to carry out collective bargaining. That is the same thing that OPEC represents in that sense. So for the US, anything that make oil price come down, anything at all, anything, both legal and illegal. Anything at all is in its interest. So, but how much of this will have impact in price of crude is not going to be immediate. No. Because US is not going to pull out just to sell crude at a lower rate. No. It simply wants to sell more. It wants to increase its output without restrictions. So, but the prospect of somebody breaking it from OPEC and more people breaking it from OPEC to the US signals a positive development that might eventually lead to reduced oil prices because of the weakness of the organization that's supposed to ordinarily bargain for all countries. Now, how does that affect Nigeria? You see, Nigeria is simply, how do I put this now? You see, we are at the receiving end of all of this international politics of economics, of energy. We are not sitting down as the one in the Strait of Hormuz, it affects us. This one, anything they just do, there is simply no safeguard for two reasons. One, Nigeria's oil and gas industry, domestic oil and gas industry, as an oil producing country, has been internationalized and dollarized through the PIA. The logic behind it was to attract foreign investment, but the element of ownership, of home advantage, from my observation so far, seems to be absent in the current governing framework. So I keep telling people that there is really no benefit per se any longer for Nigerians being an oil-producing country, going by the PIA really. For instance, an oil refinery operating Nigeria have to buy crude oil in dollars. Not going to buy crude in dollars at the rate set by international market forces. Not an NPC determined rate. No, not Nigeria's determined rate.
And that's as a result of the PIA?
Yes. Now, Dangote himself also said, finished product, if you want to buy from Dangote refinery, you have to open letter of credit in dollars. So, even if you're a Nigerian company. And he also said to you, at the rate he's selling to his customers in US, in Berlin, and everywhere. The universe is freight. You don't have to freight it to that long distance. So if Dangote is selling a liter of petrol to a German customer for, hypothetically, say 2 cents, he's going to sell to you in 2 cents, equivalent in naira. But we're going to pay dollars. Yes. Okay, at the time they said, okay, let us do naira for crude.
Crude, yes.
It is inadequate because Dangote gets most of the supplies outside of Nigeria, and he pays in dollars. So that was not him. So with this alone, honestly, the judge may not have realized this, but technically speaking, we're no longer citizens, as you would expect, of an oil producing country. Because what happens to the international oil pricing regime, it affects the private businesses operating in Nigeria.
If we amend key sections of the PIA, will that change?
It will require a political decision. If you hear me always screaming at the top of my voice that we can't have a democracy where there are no ideas that are competing for good governance. Where nobody's looking at this PIA now and saying, if I come to power as president or under this party, I've looked at the PIA, I'll amend so and so section. That's what, for instance, Strait of Hormuz happened, right? Almost all the oil producing countries shielded themselves from it, including Iran, no, that is even at the center of the crisis. Their citizens were not meant to pay for higher price of energy. Then, surprisingly, non-oil producing countries like Japan, of all people, placed a subsidy immediately on price of petrol. Some other countries followed just to protect citizens, right? Nigerians were left at the mercy of free market enterprise, of Dangotes and the rest. There was no safeguard. In fact, recently you heard that those that are operating airlines said they want to shut down.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do they want government to subsidize Jet A1 for them?
I mean, why can't the government do that?
Why can't government subsidize payments for me and you? That's what's wrong with subsidy. South Africa recently, a non-oil producing country like that, unlike Nigeria, I was watching this ABC yesterday, and South Africa has said for the time being, there is this 3 rand levy that they have reduced on the price of petrol just to break the price down. So they have forfeited 3 rand levy on petrol. It's like a tax or so on a liter of petrol, they removed it. So they will extend that relief for citizens until the situation in the international global oil pricing, whatever, stabilizes. And they're going to do something similar, if not more, for diesel. I watched it on the ABC yesterday. Meaning, countries have a local, a nationalistic framework to protect their citizens, one, and to boost national interests in their own God-given national endowment. But it doesn't seem to be the case with Nigeria. So I would have thought about that somebody would have having a conversation around how is it that Nigerians have no safety net at all, have no direct benefit? How is it that the Nigerian state itself cannot even actually control its own oil and gas resources for the benefit of its own people, as enshrined in the PIA? That's my reading. Somebody might read it differently, but this is my reading. And clearly, again, like what happened, like I stated earlier, the situation of most crises happen, and government does not have any enabling law to intervene on their behalf. Now, the airliners are crying left, right. I see them crying all over the place with Kiamu, doing meetings here and there, and I'm still waiting to see which government will come and do to bring down the price of Jet A1, since it's not a free market enterprise that is deregulated.
I think Dangote even came out putting a statement that even the PMS that they're selling to Nigerians, they are subsidizing it, so they can't afford to do that and subsidize Jet A1 as well, even though they did come out to state clearly that the price that they are selling to marketers is different from what they're hearing that the airline operators are buying. But all of this are a function of us being at the receiving end, basically.
Free market enterprise.
Okay, all right.
Somi, I warned on this program for many years that if there's any sector in the world that should never be subjected to free market template or so-called deregulation, it is energy. In the country where banking is not is deregulated but regulated heavily, the banking sector you see is heavily regulated. CBN breathes down on banks per minute, heavily. Telecoms are heavily regulated. For the banks, the central bank sends the benchmark of interest rates. Not the banks. Banks don't make that decision themselves. You can set your own interest rate within the template set by the CBN. Yet banks are still making profits. They are growing. We have one of the best banking sector in Africa. The same thing with telecoms, right? How does anybody think that energy that is even more fundamental than the financial sector and the communication sector can be deregulated the way it has been deregulated? Unless that 3 days later we have seen a situation in the world that has now jolted people to reality to say, no, government must have control over this matter. So now, we Nigerians who have been defeated with psychological, nobody's even asking for subsidy on petrol anymore. It is now the big men, those who charted, remove subsidy. They're the ones now crying that they now need help for Jet A1. So these guys didn't see that whatever affects petrol eventually affects Jet A1 because they come from the same source. They didn't see that it could get to this. They didn't see it. Or they didn't see that there could be a third world war. There could be something more than what's happening in the Strait of Hormuz that will make price of crude spike, and you now need government to come in line with its mandates of welfare and security for citizens to now do something. So whenever I saw this coming, that's why I have always criticized the policy of subsidy removal on energy. From day one, this is not it. There's no country that does not have that policy in place. For me, you can increase price of petrol and say, look, government cannot afford subsidy at any price that is below 1,500 naira per litre. It's okay. We can argue that and say, no, government should be able to do that. But a government must be able to set a temperature, okay. But if the price goes beyond 1.5, for any reason it goes beyond 1.5, government intervene to cap the prices. And government can say, no, if I manage resources well, I can actually cap the price of petrol at 1,002. Some can say, no, I've looked at the books, I can do it at 800 naira. We start having a conversation around it. Yes. But to say there's no cap at any point in time at all is what we experienced during this State of Hormuz crisis.
Question for you, Dr. Majeed. If we have subsidy removed and the PIA amended, key sections of PIA amended, will that help us in any way?
Of course. I'm saying I'm a proponent.
That's even though there is no subsidy removal.
No. One of the things that must be put in place, that must be amended in the PIA, is to restore subsidy. Again, if I understand that the president came and said he met almost a near empty treasury. I agree. I'm saying what the president would have done was to say, look, we can't subsidize petrol at any price less than 1,000 naira per litre. We think citizens will be able to buy it. So you remove subsidy. If the market forces dictates the price of 1 pound per litre, government doesn't intervene. Right? But if it goes beyond 1,000 naira to say 1,001, the government will say, okay, that 100 naira that is on top of it, we'll take it off. We'll sit down with the marketers to know what has gone wrong and take it off. So we can waive some taxes for them. What we need to do, to move down 1 naira, 100 naira, we'll do it. A government must have this policy in place. You can also say that, okay, at 3K, your citizens can survive petrol price at 3K. It's up fine. But if you get to 5K, I will intervene. You must at a point acknowledge and have a policy that is in place to intervene. That's the point I'm making.
Some people have said that they actually are doing some under recovery, as it's been called.
Well, I don't know. But you can't be doing under recovery. And Nigeria was almost the worst hit in terms of percentage of increase of petrol price when trade problems happened to us.
Okay, sir. I need to ask you one more question, then we'll go to the phone lines on this topic. We're looking at Nigeria being on the receiving end because of some of our policies and all of that. Some have also said that with the UAE exiting the OPEC, the fact that they can dictate their own production quotas and all of that, if they're able to flood the market to maximize their revenue come May, chances are that the price of Brent crude will drop. And then you now have a country like ours making projections based on higher prices of Brent.
That's what I said.
Yes.
We're such a paradox that sometimes, for me as a citizen, it is better that government revenue drops with the drop of price of Brent than for it to increase. You know why? When the price of crude drops today, at least since market forces is at play, and we've already said allow marketers and producers to be competing fairly. Maybe that competition will make it reflect in the local market. Meaning, for example, if price of crude drops to say $50 per barrel, I expect that the price of petrol will tumble below the price it is now. It's better for me because if the same government makes more money as a result of increase in price of crude as we have seen now, it won't get to me, and I'll be able to pay higher for petrol. You see the double jeopardy. So because there's no safety net, others will be happy that price of crude is going up.
So that government can make more revenue. Because
the government itself will use that revenue to safeguard me. I won't suffer because the price of crude is going up. But if I'm going to suffer because price of crude is going up and nobody's there to cushion the effect for me, and I'm meant to live on 70K per month as a minimum wage, then the price don't go up. Let it be very low. If you can go to $10 per barrel, that's why. Because if they get all the money, it will get. How will it get? Does it get to me? Corruption, maladministration, and other things now under consideration. So that's the point I'm trying to make.
Okay.
It's something is fundamentally wrong, really. And we need to sit down as a people and take a decision on. We can't run a system like this. It clearly does not really benefit anybody per se, except those that are in government, maybe. So if you have an increase in whatever, it will impact on me positively, as we have seen. You see, so let me tell you something. I heard the minister, the Emir of Kano saying recently that subsidy was removed and he's still wondering why government is borrowing. And people we said it. So the government should answer and say, no, the problem here is not why government is borrowing. The problem I said that, so Sanusi, as an economist that he is, CBN governor and all that, and banker and all, Sanusi did not see that if you remove subsidy from petrol, the government will not save anything from it. That Sanusi did not see it. It's what I'm worried about. Because these are the people that dominated everywhere, tell us subsidy must go. So you're now sitting there and wonder where the money go. When subsidy left, when you remove subsidy, it created an inflation that ate up government owns revenue. You've seen the report about the resignation of Mr. Wale Edun.
Yes.
Part of the report, independently put out there by the cable, an exclusive, said the man look, after we pay salaries, what is left is not much, and I'm being compared to pay to one or two contractors that are attached to. You know, I've said this that no government wants to own contractors. But with the money is not there, we're going to increase minimum wage to 70,000 alone. Whatever the federal government saved from subsidy removal, because a bulk of the savings went back to states and local government, because it was the federation that was subsidizing, not federal government. So if you remove, say, the 1,000 you are using to subsidize, it should now be shared among the titans of government. The one that went to the federal government was not enough to even sustain 70K payments salary.
All right. Let's go to the phone
lines. It left a hole in the finances.
Yes.
So I'm saying if an intellectual judge like Sanusi didn't understand ab initio that this policy was not going to work. And let me end on this.
Yeah.
Obasanjo paid back Nigeria's debt by saving $12 billion, right? To negotiate for a debt relief of about $18 billion. Subsidy was being paid steady while he did that. He didn't subsidy. Once in a while, he would adjust price of petrol to ease the burden of subsidy on federal, but he didn't subsidy totally. Electoral came and kind of cushioned the effect of sustained Obasanjo's reforms and increased subsidy payment by reducing price of petrol from 75 naira to 65 naira. That was when Nigeria enjoyed the most revenue and welfare after Obasanjo's reforms. You know why? Crude oil price is so shortly after them because of the war in the Middle East. So Nigeria earned a lot of money, but Nigerians didn't suffer because we are buying petrol as a traveler throughout. So, and we had savings. Yeradua increased excess crude account from about $9.8 billion to almost $13 billion, increased foreign reserves. And that was why you were hearing windfall to state. That is, this was your normal allocation, but because of the excess we gained, there was a windfall to all the state and local government then. Subsidy was in place on petrol. Nigeria didn't crash. Because the stability of energy made production easier, cheaper, and made the economy made it much more resilient. Today, you have removed that safety net. It's like pouring water into a basket. It can never collect the water. It's not possible. So if Sanusi did not know this, then we should send some of this back to School of Economics and go and teach them properly.
All right, Dr. Majeed, let's go to the phone line. 0809-597-4869 if you want to jump in and say a thing or two about the story so far. 0809-993-0137. Remember, if you're sending a voice note, if at all, you have to keep it really short. Otherwise, we will not be able to play it. Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Lady Somi and Dr. Majeed. My name is Abokar calling you from Bogoleta.
Welcome, sir.
Concerning United Arab Emirates Extradition Office, their leaders are visionary leaders. They always take courageous decision and action concerning global issues. During the Gulf War, when big vessels and ships are not sailing Gulf high sea water, they offer to ensure any willing ship that will sail to their harbor or seaport. They did that. And during September 11, when global aviation industry collapsed, they bought the highest number of jets. They shocked the whole world. So they have their reason. And United Arab Emirates has a platform at the seashore of Oman.
Okay.
They can load oil vessels without assessing Strait of Hormuz. That is that on that. On our local politics, the judiciary helping the executive to compromise, abuse,
all right, sir.
The electoral process. We have not come to election, but the electoral process has been rigged already. But let us watch and see. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Good afternoon, Somi and Dr. Majeed. The implication of UAE out of OPEC on Nigerian oil economy is that market prices may fall once Iran's war ends. For Nigeria, that means less government revenue, more pressure on the Naira, tougher 2027 economy. Short-term, no impact because Hormuz is blocked by war. Long-term, OPEC is weaker and Nigeria loses price protection. My fear now is that this government has failed to plan to reposition our domestic oil reserve. 2027 will be rougher economically, Kashim Isa Adaji from Maraba, Nasarawa State says, and he ends his message with so unfortunate. Hello?
Somi, number one, I greet you special.
Good afternoon. Welcome.
Thank you. This is Majeed Destiny Anthony, and I greet Dr. Majeed. Thank you, my senior brother.
Good afternoon, sir.
Dr. Majeed, let me start on a lighter note. You know, there is a place I go. We call it Galilee, where we just go, take something chilled, and relax. So
you are enjoying, you know.
I don't know if you take the kind of thing I take, but find something chill and take on my behalf. Thank you for always speaking the truth. Thank you for putting truth to power. In fact, you made a statement when Sanusi was saying, he was talking about how they've removed subsidy, where is the money? And they were clapping for him. And I told them that he was sounding more like a politician than an economist. He knows the truth. He knows. But just for him to be in the good book of some people and let it be like you're trying to paint some other government in power in a bad light. That's why he made that statement. You can't tell me that he himself didn't know that removal of subsidy was going to create a lot of financial and economic problem for the nation. And now he's talking. So my own is that now that the subsidy is gone, and because some of the people who we are clapping and celebrating the removal, now it's gradually biting everybody.
Okay.
Some airlines, we had them the other time, they were crying about how they are going to shut down, the thing is expensive. So No, the thing we touch poor people don't hit rich people as well.
All
You
right,
see how
sir.
it goes. Thank you, Dr. Majeed. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcy. Hello, good afternoon. Hello.
Hello?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, my name is Francis Ako, calling from Kabari in National State.
Okay.
Yes, I want to thank the woman in the studio for the good job she's doing. And I also want to greet Dr. Majeed for his knowledge and the way he's making things open for us, for we to know what is happening in this country. I always love Dr. Majeed for his contribution to the economic solution of these economic problems of this country. Please, my little thing I want to say is this. Please, Dr. Majeed should keep on with his good work. He should keep on enlightening us. He should keep on making us to know what is happening in the economy and the political terrains. May God bless Dr. Majeed. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. God bless you too, sir.
All right. The Tricks Tony on Facebook says he likes your cap. Perhaps you might drop it for him at some point. Suleiman Abdullahi says, good day, Nigerian for family. I agree with what Dr. Majeed has said about the David Mark-led leadership to step down from Wosu to save the party from the court brouhaha. Agor Boss Andrew says, good afternoon, Dr. Majeed. Nice to see and listen to you here in my hometown. Adikbo, Kwande local government of Benue State. Odiame Ologun says, good afternoon, Dr. Majeed. Nice to see you again after a week's absence. Please, I would love to hear your take on the viral video of the policeman that shot a suspect in broad daylight in Warri, also on the picking of form by Tinubu. I can tell you that we're going to talk about the first one that you mentioned. I don't know about the form. Not much of a conversation to be had there, if I'm being honest, but we are going to be addressing that the story of the policeman, the trigger-happy policeman, also in light of every other killing that has gone on by security operators, but that will have to come up after the news. Let's see what this message here says. Good afternoon, Somi and Dr. Majeed. My humble advice for the ADC stakeholders under Senator David Mark leadership is to find an alternative platform and move in 3 days from now, Israel is saying. The reason is clear for everyone. As fictitious as it is, Tinubu and APC have a case to challenge their election loss to court in the post-2027 litigation. They know that they have already lost the poll and will lose, so the judiciary is their hope, where there's going to be more technicalities and frivolities. Also, the opposition group should bear in mind that there is no platform that they will be moving into that the canker worm will not follow them there. Okay? That's why they must not allow the choice of candidates to divide them. As for the president, a good fighter is not known for disallowing his opponents to exist. Let him be, defeat him in an open fight, and that's how you get reputation. So, I can tell you that it's not a small amount of taxpayers' money that is funding this opposition party crisis. Okay. And someone also speaking on that. This is a rather long one. I don't know if I have the time for it. Let me see if I can take one that is shorter. On the UAE matter, the Zionists have asked them to leave, so they are leaving. Kamba nomad? Where's that coming from? Okay. And a question here from Stephen from Airport Road. When are we ever going to have a Nigeria that works for all of us, where the institutions of state are not at the behest of one powerful president? When will that day come and how? Please, Dr. Majeed, how and when? All questions that we will attempt to answer if we can after this time out. Stay with us.
Talk, news and sports after this.
At Stella Maris Primary School,
by powerful presidents, if you will, to exact whatever it is that they're trying to get out of it. I wonder what your thoughts are very quickly, in like next 2 minutes, on what Mike Igini said, the former INEC official, about key clauses of the Electoral Act that well, they were not tampered with. Someone said they did the research and they had been there ever since. The 63 that allows people to, parties to be able to bring in their ballot papers, even though they don't have the INEC logo on it. And I think 137 and 138, which also sort of excluded INEC officials or shielded them from petitions and prosecutions. Very quickly, your thoughts on that, sir?
I'm sure you witnessed a number of elections in the U.S. From Nigeria, you followed elections in the U.S.
Yes, I have.
You followed elections in the UK. You followed snap elections in Japan. You've seen elections all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever had any discussion on electoral act in any of these countries?
No.
Do you know the INEC chairman's name of America?
No, sir, I do not.
How about UK?
No, I do not.
Any of these countries, any of the local countries, have you heard of INEC there, electoral body or the chairman? These are secondary issues. There are issues that are more fundamental than all of these things we are seeing or hearing. That's why we have the most elaborate electoral laws in the world, but unimplementable. That's why we have the most elaborate PIA in the world. America doesn't have a PIA. So doesn't have a PIA. Yet, we can't produce more than how many barrels of crude. Do you get the point? We have too many laws, institutions, and bureaucracies created by a defective political system. I'm less bothered about electoral act, what is called, what's not called. The electoral process, the politics of it all, that created this system is what I think Nigerians should begin to work towards overcoming, replacing with a new paradigm.
I mean, but we have to start from somewhere, right?
Can't start building a house from the top. Go to the root of the problem. What caused Nigeria's problem is a wrong kind of politics. I've told you several identity politics that has patronage as a reward system. Flip it to true liberal democratic practices with good governance as a reward system. It's a task before political parties.
The same political parties that will come into leadership by virtue of these acts. That's
political parties. I've been saying it. The day we are ready for somebody ask me how we can make Nigeria better. It's the day that you and I will come together, put aside our ethnic and religious differences, and agree that we need servant leadership and work tenaciously towards it through a modern, ethical political process will achieve the results. We are not ready yet. It's about to redirect Nigerians away from the symptoms to the root causes. I see resistance. And I said, no, that is what the solution is. How do you expect people that we are elected on the same system into National Assembly, dominated by the APC, for instance, not to write an electoral act that seems to favor the incumbent? What are you expecting? And I'm saying, since the system, luckily for us, this system has excluded the majority of Nigerians. Majority.
right.
Let that majority be organized now around a central theme, a central ideal, a central agenda for national redemption, and people power will defeat all of these defects in the system.
Okay. All right. Let's let that sink in. We've got the news at the top of the hour. When we come back, conversation will continue. So number one talk station 95.1, Nigeria Info, and Joy Eberebe is here for the news.
From the nation's capital, this is Abuja Today.
Its name is linked to ancient settlements and fortified walls, Kofar Kano, and it became a major center of trade and Islamic scholarship. Zaria, originally called Zazao, was named after Queen Zazao, one of the legendary Hausa rulers. The city later became known as Zaria under colonial rule. Sokoto derives from the Arabic word souk, meaning market. The city became the political and spiritual center of the Sokoto Caliphate. Finally, the northeast, Maiduguri. Maiduguri comes from Maidin Guri, meaning the town of Guri, reflecting the Kanuri heritage of the area. Yola is believed to have originated from a Fulani ward associated with settlement and leadership, later becoming the seat of the Adamawa Emirate, whose reputation shaped the city of the settlement. Across Nigeria, city names are living archives. They preserve languages, honor ancestors, mark geography, and record encounters with colonial powers. So, the next time you hear a city's name, remember, it's not just a location, it's a story passed down through generations, waiting to be told.
Another piece of the puzzle now revealed. Keep questioning, keep listening, only on Nigeria Info.
95.1 Nigeria Info. Welcome back to Hard Facts.
This is Hard Facts.
Hard Facts.
Hard Facts.
On 95.1 Nigeria Info.
All right, we are back, and let's get straight into this other story. Apparently, the news first broke yesterday, even though it did happen a couple of days before. Police in Delta State, as of today, are said to have arrested an officer who was filmed extrajudicially killing a handcuffed man in the state. Police spokesperson in Delta State, Bright Edafe, disclosed this in a statement yesterday, Tuesday. Human rights activist Harrison Gwamnishu had uploaded the disturbing clip showing a handcuffed man surrounded by armed police operatives attached to the Dahiru division in Delta State. The man was heard assuring the operatives that he would tell them everything. I will tell you everything, he said. My friends deceived me. That was what he was heard saying repeatedly while seated on the ground. Now, while he pleaded for the opportunity to say everything, one of the operatives appeared uninterested in the man's plea. He was seen in the clip loading his rifle before immediately shooting the man dead. In a statement on Tuesday, Mr. Edafe, Superintendent of Police, identified the slain man as Mene Ugidi, a 28-year-old. The police spokesperson said the extrajudicial killing of the suspect by the officer occurred on Sunday. And in their report, they said they had received a report about this man's attempt to waybill a parcel containing a Beretta pistol with 4 rounds of ammunition, following which they were promptly deployed to the scene to take the suspect into custody. However, the police officer leading the team, ASP Nuhu Usman, in clear violation of Force Order 237, this is Edafe speaking, and the standard operating procedure of the Nigerian Police Force, discharged his firearm, leading to the death of the suspect. Mr. Edafe said the Commissioner of Police in Delta State, Yemi Oyeniyi, upon receiving the information about the killing, immediately ordered the arrest of the officer and subsequent transfer to the police headquarters in Asaba for disciplinary action. The officer has since been queried and transferred to Force Headquarters Abuja, where he is said to appear before the Force Disciplinary Committee, which it says is currently in session for immediate disciplinary sanction and prosecution. The IGP also has reacted to this. Olatunji Disu vowed to ensure justice for the slain man in Delta State. Details of the IGP's reaction to the extrajudicial killing were contained in a statement by the Force spokesperson Anthony Okon, Deputy Commissioner of Police, yesterday night. According to the statement, Disu has condoled the family of the slain man and assured them that justice will be served according to the law. Now, we have been hearing repeatedly, even post-NSAS, the cases of police brutality, extortion, and extrajudicial killings continuing. There have been other reports of unprofessional activities across the country, despite sanctions such as dismissal from the service. Now, we know that in times past, where these cases did eventually make it into the limelight, you eventually hear of this summary dismissal, basically, but not much else happens. Just to give you a quick rundown, 3 weeks ago, some police officers in Anambra State illegally arrested, tortured, and extorted 1.4 million naira from some Nigerians. This was reported. The money was later refunded to the victims following public outrage. Last month, police in Anambra State arrested and detained 6 senior officers who allegedly tortured and extorted 200,000 from a trader in Onitsha, the commercial hub of the state. In February, 3 officers were dismissed over alleged kidnapping, extorting 1.7 million naira, and car snatching in Imo State, another state in the southeast. 2 months ago, bringing this closer to what we've seen happen in the last couple of days, police operatives shot dead a private motorcyclist in Ebonyi State. We can go as far back as November, which is where I'll stop. There's more that's happened even before then. But as of November 2024, police operatives from the crack squad in Abakaliki, Ebonyi State, shot dead a laborer and critically injured 3 others in the state. Now, this is happening with the police. Just a few days ago and yesterday, we discussed on the show the unfortunate incident of the NYSC corps member who was shot dead in his own home as well. Dr. Majeed, the question that perhaps we can get into today, this matter of, even when it is reported, there are a lot of them that have gone unreported, but even when it is reported, what you typically see, it's no more than administrative punishments and arrests, then you now get to the stage where they will dismiss them and that is it, that it all ends there. How do we get to the point where the people who are supposed to protect us, really and truly, actually do that without us being afraid for our lives? With the situation in which state? I think, yeah, it was in Day. Yes, the NYC story. Reports have it that the military men who were in that area, who were called to come and help foil an attack, were paid by the residents of that community to protect them. And then all sorts of things started coming out, and then you hear of this happening. How do we stop this?
Okay, first, it is even quite commendable that the Nigerian police force is making effort to arrest erring members of the institution. I mean, all of the reports you gave out indicated that people that committed such atrocities within the force have been arrested and reprimanded and are undergoing disciplinary measures in the force. I can also tell you that in some cases that I know of, it doesn't end there. It doesn't just end in dismissal. They actually charged to court and prosecuted accordingly. I remember the case of policemen somewhere in my hometown in Okene in the early 2000s, if I'm not mistaken. They actually hijacked a bus of traders that were trading in livestock that was close to the big seller period. Certain traders were going to the market to go and buy, livestock that they'll come and sell to people that want to buy animals for sacrifice during the feast of Eid al-Kabir. And so they were hijacked and taken to somewhere just around my community. And then they shot them dead, took their money, and then burnt them inside their vehicle. It was such a horrendous atrocity that was committed. They were arrested and were prosecuted and were sentenced to death by hanging. Eventually, yes. It took, of course, the wheels of justice grinding slowly in Nigeria, but eventually they were sentenced to death. So I want to see all of these cases you've enumerated properly prosecuted and conclusively we get a conclusive form of justice and closure for the victims. Now, on the other hand, you asked a very critical question, and that's the root of the problem. How do we solve all of this problem? Because it's becoming one too many. If it was the case in the US, you would say racism probably, but I mean, we are all blacks in Nigeria, so what exactly is the situation? The first thing I've observed, actually, is that we have more police brutality in the south than in the north. It's something that the Nigerian police force really, really need to work on. That is, thankfully, we don't see too much of this up north.
Is it that, is it because it's not happening or because it's not reported?
No, I think there's always been that complaint. This is not to say that one side is moving forward over and above the other, no. Maybe it has to do with urbanization, commercialization, and all of that. So commercial cities like Aba, Ori, Port Harcourt, Lagos. If you know what police people do to people in Lagos, I think I've lived in Lagos too. Onisha, all those places, there is a high rate of police brutality. As like now, NSAS protests, for instance, SARS atrocities happen more in the south than in the north. So we want to see the kind of conduct we see policemen carry out in the north. We want to see it in the south. And this conduct has nothing to do with individual police ethnicity or region of origin. Don't get me. I don't want people to misinterpret what I'm saying. Policemen from the south, southern Nigerian origin, policemen there, tend to be more brutal even in the south than they are in the north. I'm trying to say that it's not about the ethnicity of the policeman. It's about just the geography where Nigerians are. Don't forget that in southern Nigeria, Nigerians of all ethnic groups reside there. So when the policeman is harassing people in Lagos, it could be anybody from any part of the country. So that
and he could be from any part of the country as well, but by virtue of his location.
It's not a case of a northern police officer is harassing people in the south because they're northerner. No. It's just all police officers of all ethnic groups, stations in the south, but all these commercial cities in the south, it's hell.
Is this something about their psyche?
I don't know. But it's something that needs to be looked into. Again, it's not about ethnicity or religion, no. It's just a dichotomy that somehow in the south, I repeat, one of the most notorious SAS commanders in Anambra State was an Igbo man. So it's not about, it's because he posted Northern to the south, that's why. No. It's not because the IG is on the north, that's why. No.
The person who shot this particular person, the 28-year-old, is from the north.
But I'm saying, if you check other similar cases, you see southern police officers doing the same thing, just like another person. It's not about ethnicity. For instance, the one that shot the ones in Kogi, I told them, we are Northerners. And the people that they shot, we are Northerners. Do you get the point? So police is not directing their atrocity because of ethnicity or religion, but there's a tendency, if you notice, so there's this complaint always by people that are applying the Benin Ore road from Lagos to the east to say, look, there are too many checkpoints that have become extraction points along that road, right? So I'm saying that itself needs to be checked. There's high-handedness we see generally in the southern half of the country. So I've said it's because people in the north will not tolerate it. They will not. If one injury against one is injury against all, it's possible. So they have learned to respect themselves when it comes to the part of the country. It's possible. But that is a positive for us in the north. And since we have that situation here, please change your attitude in the south. But fundamentally, we need police reforms. You see, the police force of any country should be a magnet for the best of citizens from that country. The best students in Primary 1A, Primary 1B, Primary 1C should be recruited into the police force. The best students in secondary school should be recruited. The best behaved, the most intelligent, the man with the highest integrity should be the ones to be entering the Nigerian police force. But that must be accompanied with proper training and high welfare. Welfare enough to make a child say, look, I'm going to go to a policeman. I want to be a law enforcement officer. In Nigerian police force recruitment today, it is people that don't have any other option that are lumped into the police force.
You might say that for the lower rank. That's not necessarily the case. When you see those who are pretty much high up.
So you see anybody who has a choice to go to CBN and choose to go to the Nigerian police force?
I really actually believe that there are people who would do that. I mean, look at the copper that was killed. His father said he wanted to join the army, that was his goal.
What is his social status? Does he have an option to actually go to NNPC and he said he wants to join the army truly? Would his father have allowed him?
I honestly believe that there's still some prestige to it. But it's a function of where you enter.
There's no prestige to the Nigerian police force. Army is even better Electoral, not Nigerian police force. Let's not color it. No, it needs to change. Let's not color it. There's no prestige to it. Look, hey, my mom once asked my son, what do you want to be in future? I said a policeman. A family meeting was someone to say, go on. I mean, where did this idea come from? Okay, we need to have a meeting to give me the orientation. So And because he really wants to be, because he watches movies and he sees law enforcement, so he wants to be a policeman. So right now, if you ask him what he wants to be in future, he will tell you he's not made up his mind yet because he was dissuaded from being a Nigerian police officer. Not by me, though, because it was all amusing to me. But I understood hey, are you sure? Do you know what you're going through? What am I saying in essence is, if the guy had said, I want to be an engineer, I work in NNPC, or I want to be an economist, I work in CBN, they would have clapped for, hey, good boy. But this young man is growing, he's watching movies, he's seeing police officers on the road, and if it is community service, I want to be among these people. Something I'm supposed to tell you, but I'm saying, like, are you sure you know the profession you want to go into?
So the primary issue
I
there.
remember when I was young, too.
Yes.
I was also asked the same question, what do you want to be in future? And I said, I want to be a professor. They asked me, so because you hear professor, you think that that was the day I knew the working condition of professors and why they were always going on strike under ASU. That was the day I knew. I mean, it was like a seminar to say, guy, are you really sure of what you're saying? What am I saying in essence? It's not a joke that our Nigerian police force has become a magnet for the director of the society. Anybody who doesn't have work doing, who is too stubborn, they say, take him to the police force, let him go and display his country there. I've heard people say this. Where is this talk that used to disturb the companies? He's not in the police force. So that is the situation. So they take this mentality there. Then coupled with the fact that you're not ready to take care of police officers. If the police force was well catered for, with adequate welfare, it would be the magnet for the children of the rich. Nobody would have been, no. You wouldn't have space to go into that place.
As much as I understand where you're going with this conversation, perhaps I think that what is happening with our Nigerian police force or our security operatives in general is beyond just a welfare issue. I don't know how much better off members of the Nigerian police force were in the 80s, I don't know how much better off, but I don't think that we had this kinds of extrajudicial killings and this extortion happening on this scale.
No. The problem in the Nigerian police force progressed over time because the police force regressed over time too.
So that regression, I think, has been a function of their working conditions, their pay, but also that one as well.
The police is a symbol of the state. If you want to judge a country, I want to know how a country truly is. We arrive at that country, look out for their police officers, their policemen and women. What you see, the conduct, their comportment. If somebody is eating well, when you see the person, you will know, and nobody needs to tell you. Like the first time I went to Dubai, when I saw the immigration officers, I knew I had entered a country that was different from where I was coming from. You could see the poise. You could see the spoken English with a tone of Arab arrogance. When you see the person asking you to present your passport, you could see that this is Dubai welcoming you. This is what Dubai is. I saw it. Nobody was asking you for anything. Everybody was focused on the. So when you go there, you will see that this is what the country represents. Nigeria, for so long, has abandoned the police force, not knowing that the police force is the symbol of the state. When somebody enters Nigeria and sees a policeman, it should give the person that's the image. It should give the person an impression of how well this country is doing. So in essence, the police force in Nigeria is a reflection of how we're not doing so well as a country. If
we fix the pay, the welfare and all of that, do you think that will fix impunity within the force itself?
Of course, it starts from there. A hungry man is an angry man.
Let's take a break on that. We'll come back.
This is Jolly Johnny on the streets. How well do you know Majeed chicken flavor?